Good morning, gang. Happy Friday. So, this morning I want to talk about something completely different. Nothing that is in the news or anything like that. It's something that I just want you to put in the back of your head. It's not an action item now or something, but it's just something to remember for whatever could potentially happen in the future. All right? Don't worry about running out and doing this afternoon or this weekend or something, but it's something that if this ever happens, you know what to do. All right. So I'm going to ask you this. Y'all know what happened in Afghanistan, right? 20 years of war against a bunch of guys driving around in pickup trucks, riding horses with 40-year-old weaponry, and they, for all intents and purposes, defeated the greatest military known to man, the U.S. Army. Okay. And people would say, well, we didn't really lose, but yeah, when you go in and spend 20 years and multi-billions of dollars and nothing changes over 20 years, I'd say that's not a victory. Okay. You go back to Vietnam. Okay. And again, same thing. You've got the world's most advanced military in the United States going up against a bunch of Vietnamese running through the jungles with a bunch of creative ways of defeating the military. Now, I'm going to give you this. It didn't help that the U.S. government sent troops over there with weapons, but no bullets or anything like that. I mean, the government screwed over the military every which way they could and just sent kids to slaughter. No big deal. But again, same thing. You had a significantly overmatched group of people militarily, for all intents and purposes, defeat the superior forces. A David and Goliath situation. No question. Both times. Now, take this to prepping. All right? We all know that in an SHTF situation, and God knows how this pans out, could it be marauders? Could it be the U.S. military? Could it be the UN? Chances are there is going to be a foe that you are going to have to battle in a full-blown SHTF situation. Like I said in the title, are you outgunned? Probably. Are you outsmarted? Probably not. Okay. If you know what to do, if you can use some tactics and the resources that are available to you. Now, I'm going to ask you this. We'll start with the simple one. Let's just say it's marauders coming down the road in a pickup truck or multiple pickup trucks or whatever would be. Relatively easy for you to take out. Small arms fire will do fine. Bullets will go through windshields. Bullets will take out tires, no problem. That's pretty simple. You can do that, right? You can also use some of these other tactics I'm going to show you against marauders as well, but at least you have some sort of equal footing to fight marauders with. They're not in armored vehicles. They're not in tanks, whatever would be coming at you. Chances are. Could be. All right. But for the most part, thinking no. All right. But let's say it's the U.S. military. Let's say it's the UN military that's coming down your street into your neighborhood or into your farmland or whatever it is. What can you do to even the playing field? That's what I want to talk about. All right. So what would you think would be the most effective weapon to disable a M113 tracked vehicle, armored personnel carrier, an MRAP, a BRDM, an M1 tank? Not that I see a whole lot of tanks coming down the street, but the UN will use APCs of some sort, either wheeled or tracked. How can you stop them? Because remember this, and those of you that were tankers will agree with me on this one. There's a reason why the military likes kids, if you will, 18, 19, 20 years old to go through basic training, and they don't want the 30-somethings. They want the kids because their minds are more moldable, okay? They can be convinced they're invincible. Y'all remember being a teenager. You were 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Now take a teenager whose mind has been conditioned that he's 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and put him in an armored vehicle. You're unstoppable. You're a god among men. You can do anything, right? That's what they think. Wrong. Armored vehicles are relatively easy to disable if you know what you're doing. And no, you don't need to have an RPG or something like that to do it. You need one of the simplest tools known to man, a shovel. Just like this. No, that's not how you're going to be using a shovel. But just thought I'd throw that in there for a quick laugh, right? Yeah. If you get to the point where you're trying to beat somebody with a shovel, you're probably outgunned, right? But what can you use a shovel for? Digging holes are really good. If you think of the wheelbase or the size of a tire on an MRAP, a BRDM, a Humvee, anything that a military is going to use in a way of a vehicle, they're usually somewhere around 20-inch tires, okay? Which means, top to bottom, thereabouts. So if you dig a hole, a trench, across the road, that's 24 inches wide and 24 inches deep, this is what happens. Now, ever been stuck in a ditch in your car? Yeah, you can't get out, right? Same thing. Now you have immobilized that vehicle. And if there's a line of vehicles behind them, you've stopped all them too, because they can't go any further as well. What does this do? This forces those troops to dismount the vehicle, and now they're outside their armor. Guess what? You've just evened the playing field. You do that, you watch the vehicles come down the street, they get out, and you go tap, 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 and you've just eliminated your threat. Okay. Remember the other thing. These are very heavy vehicles. Okay. The average pickup truck, the F-150 I've got, is a couple of tons. The average MRAP is something like 20 tons with all that armor on it. Well, gee, but the tankers will see, or the guy driving it's going to see a hole in the road, and he's not going to go over it. Camouflage, that ain't difficult, okay? You could, if you wanted to, you could do this on the highway, okay? But let's say this is back roads or the neighborhood street or something like this. You can relatively easily, I'm not saying with the hand shovel, you might need somebody who's got a backhoe, okay? Dig the hole, cover it up, camouflage it with some leaves, some mud, some whatever. You could feasibly tunnel underneath the asphalt and El Chapo, right? Y'all remember that tunnel that they dug and you looked inside and all the 2x4s and everything bracing it up? Do the same thing. I'm going to tell you this. 2x4s are not going to hold up the weight of an armored vehicle. Okay? Put it in there, nose in. It's done. Those guys have to get out. Right? This also works for tracked vehicles, tanks, 113s, a BMP, anything like that. Right? You just have to dig the hole a little wider. Okay? Now, I know some of you are going to come up and go, well, gee, the M1 can do 60 some odd miles an hour and it'll just jump over the hole. Sure, okay, if you're out in an open field somewhere and the tank can get up to that speed, right? Little word of advice. If you're sitting there with your AR or your AK and there's a whole bunch of tracked vehicles coming at you, you don't want to be in an open field, okay? You want to be somewhere where there are trees in front of you, something like that, some sort of obstacle. Can a tracked vehicle take down a tree? Yeah, maybe up to about a 6-inch tree. But take a look at this. This is what happens when an M1 goes up against a little bit bigger tree. Now, as you can see, tank can knock down the tree. That's not a problem. But you've kind of screwed yourself when you have this huge tree laying over the top of your vehicle, okay? And even if the guys get out, you have no way to move that tree, all right? So you're going to have to hook chains up to it. Another vehicle pull the tree off. As you can see in there, there's no way you're rotating that turret to use the weaponry on the tank whatsoever. So again, what you have managed to do is disable the vehicle and forced the troops inside to get out. You're on an even playing field again. We go back to the ditch, and a tank ditch is a tactic that goes all the way back to World War I, all right? You got to dig it bigger than a wheeled vehicle ditch. 10 feet across works fine. Again, if you've got a backhoe, somebody around who has a backhoe, and I'm telling you this, guys, machinery is going to be something that you're going to want to track down when you get if we go into an SHTF situation. Hopefully somebody's got a tractor or something of some sort that you can use to do it. So if you're in a treed area, that's going to slow down these tanks, which curves or whatever, they're not going to be able to get up to speed, jump over a ditch. But now you put something like that in there. Watch this video. This is a multitude of different tracked vehicles going into a tank ditch. Okay. As you can see in here, all of these vehicles are stuck. What happens? Now, if you got to, I want you to remember this. That is a steel box that they are sitting in, and they can't go anywhere. Chances are, if they pop their head out of the vehicle, you're going to be shooting at them. They'll realize that real fast and button up. So what's the next thing you do? Well, depending on what your intentions are. Do you want to destroy the vehicle? Probably a good idea. Or do you potentially want to capture the vehicle for your own use? That's a possibility as well. All right? Again, depending on if you've got machinery that you can haul it out of the ditch. You just got to get rid of those guys. Well, the first thing, if you've got all the men buttoned up and they can't do anything, very first thing you want to do is go get that antenna off of the tank, off of the APC, off of whatever. Why? You don't want them to be able to call for help. So now if you have a bunch of guys in a steel box, buttoned up, with no way to call for help, you have all the advantage. Is it hot outside? Imagine how hot it gets inside a steel box in the middle of summer. Is it cold outside? Imagine how cold it gets in a steel box in the middle of winter. Okay. Eventually, they're going to run out of fuel to run that motor if you don't disable the engine. If you want to destroy it, one nice little homemade thermite grenade that I basically showed you how to make, or told you at least. Set it on top, run like hell, watch that thing burn right through the motor. End of story. You're done. Okay. They're going to sit in there. Eventually they will come out. Pop, pop, pop. You're done. Okay. No more threats. There are many ways to even the playing field. All right, so what you see, we are not going to be outmanned. There are a hell of a lot more of us. Are we going to be outgunned? At the beginning, sure, okay. We don't have tanks. We don't have M60s or M2s or anything like that. Nothing. I mean, maybe you've got a 30 cal semi-automatic. Maybe, if you're real lucky, you got a Madus laying around, but it's still going to be semi-automatic, 50 cal. They got the automatic stuff. We might be able to capture some of it along the way if this ever happens, which will be the intent. So we might be outgunned at the beginning, but will we be outsmarted? No. Okay. And again, remember what I said. The young kids are impressionable. They think they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Now that they're in an armored vehicle, they're God. Armored vehicles are relatively easy to put out of commission. I mean, not as easy as a pickup truck is, but if you use a little bit of common sense and use what Mother Nature gave us, trees, gravity, okay, you can stop a significantly more powerful threat, and you don't even have to be there to watch. Again, David versus Goliath. Remember who won that battle. Pinball out.